from Rebecca Brandon on Frontlines. In New York City, protesters for Jordan Neely seem confused as they complain the police aren't doing enough while simultaneously complaining the police are doing too much, as they block subway passengers from getting to work and actually end up going on the tracks to stop the subway because somehow it's the subway's fault. Now the protesters are seen later fleeing the scene and act incredulous when they discover consequences.
Stop touching me! You better get...
And as the arrests continue, New York City falls into chaos. And I imagine it's mainly composed of people that don't quite understand what actually happened. So I can sympathize with the community that's outraged over one of their own losing their life in an unjust situation. But the more you dig into this incident, the more contradictory this protest becomes, as it really looks like you have a crowd of people that see themselves as liberal white saviors to New Yorkers that just want to go to work.
Let me talk. It's a crime what he did. It's a crime how he died. He's got to go to work. It's a big ass city. Manhattan is mad big. Manhattan. And
we've actually seen this exact same scenario several times during the BLM protests. Non-black liberals trying to preach to black people at their job on how they need to destroy their community because it will somehow benefit their community. And it won't be the last time this scenario occurs. Just watch this clip from the Fallen State on TikTok that shows how they view the black community.
So you're saying blacks don't have the common sense to make good decisions for themselves?
Black conservatives? Oh no, because they have the gall of being conservative while having experienced what it means to be under the heel of a white supremacist state.
Why were blacks able to do better then than they are today?
Because white folk got more clever.
And I'm sorry, if someone told me, you're too dumb to understand how to protect the Asian community, and it's because these other white people are outsmarting you, so it's somehow in my best interest to turn off my own logic, reasoning, and personal experience, and bend the knee to this other group of white people that's apparently outsmarting the group trying to outsmart me. You really gotta hand it to them though. If you're catering to an audience that hears that, and still click subscribe, you really filter out all the self-respecting critical thinkers, leaving you an audience of people that think they're too dumb to understand their own life experiences. I'm actually starting to think that's kinda genius, because at that point you can say whatever you want and no one would challenge you. And I'm just now realizing I'm playing YouTube on hard mode, but never mind any of that. It's just too hard to ignore the irony of protesters getting angry at the police for not making arrests, only for them to almost immediately get arrested themselves. As the scene devolves into chaos, you would think they would realize tying up this many police resources seems counterproductive to getting NYPD to go out and make the arrests they demand. But no, I doubt they will ever come to this realization, as the rage continues above ground and more arrests are made. I understand this isn't the most cut and dry situation they're protesting over, but I do believe if the unrest results in more political prosecutions, we will witness the end of safety in New York City for the common working citizen. Because as we see on New York's daily news headline, it makes it seem like their outrage is justified, as the New York Times reports no arrest has been made, as they specifically make sure readers know a white person was the attacker and the victim was black, with people alluding if the races were reversed, they would have made an arrest already. And let's be clear, we're talking about the New York City District Attorney's Office. That absolutely would not have happened. But New York's Governor Kathy Hochul somehow came to the conclusion that the man that was choked was clearly not going to harm anyone. And that's limousine liberalism in a nutshell. Someone that wasn't there, that has hundreds of thousands of your tax dollars at her disposal to ensure her safety, is trying to tell the people that use New York City public transportation more than 10 times a week, don't worry, she saw some videos of this guy over a decade ago and has come to the conclusion that he was harmless. Because of course people are rushing to repost the 10-year-old footage of the guy when he was an incredibly talented Michael Jackson impersonator, but now people are digging up Reddit posts 9 years ago of people reporting how erratic and angry he became, with a recent post talking about how he attacked other subway passengers just last week. Now it's impossible to verify random Reddit posts, but the video from Joey Boots clearly shows he was at least prone to being aggressive and was not shy on using slurs against a certain community that apparently weren't aware or just don't care. Which, to be fair, Boots is the same guy that antagonized Tucker Carlson and was trying to get a reaction out of Neely too. But I have a hard time believing someone hassling you on the streets with a camera can suddenly make you say slurs formerly not in your vocabulary. which just goes to show the blatant hypocrisy of this entire protest. They don't like it when a criminal sees justice. They don't like it when you pull up their criminal history to show why they may have found that justice. But they do like it when you can find sweet innocent pictures from years ago. But they don't like it when you can find more recent footage showing that's no longer the case. It's almost like they're not looking for the truth, they're just looking for a narrative. And I absolutely despise when people flood the comments saying, "Oh, you just don't like a particular race," on a video where I'm clearly siding between two categories: the employed, hardworking people contributing to society versus the overly emotional, easy to manipulate people disrupting actual productivity. Because the latter always seems to be angry, but only when they're told to. Plenty of people from the black community lose their lives, but BLM seems to pick and choose when BLs actually M, and it really seems it only matters in very specific, highly profitable situations. Now even Elon Musk is calling out how disingenuous the protesters are, selectively becoming outraged, and others pointing out how a white homeless person was murdered and it didn't seem there was much public outcry over that. But simply put, they're rallying around this incident because they can villainize whiteness, with even sitting members of Congress calling this a lynching. But good on Elon's version of Twitter that quickly put out a context message stating the video had nothing to do with the incident, he was restrained by 3 people, not just the white guy, and he had 44 prior arrests. Which it's always sickening when these politicians try to use extreme, but not applicable, phrasing. Calling this a lynching is incredibly disrespectful to actual victims of that. But it is in their playbook, calling Trump a 1940s German, saying DeSantis is exterminating, or that 1/6 is like 9/11. You're not making something worse by sensationalizing your view of it, you're only dismissing victims of actual atrocities by comparing them to whatever thing you're currently upset about. But it looks like the left is starting to eat itself as AOC calls this incident a murder on Twitter, but then NYC Mayor Eric Adams called her out on it.
What is your response to what they're saying here?
I don't think that's very responsible at the time where we're still investigating the situation.
And it's truly sad when coffins only become valuable when they can be used as soapboxes in the Olympic sport that is, I told you so. Because I don't think this group has any actual values. Just look at the podcast Teray claiming the white guy should have done nothing because a man yelling on the subway should just be acceptable. When nearly 2 years ago on the dot, he seemingly permitted someone ending another person's life over yelling, just when the races were reversed. And sadly, that's what this political climate has done to society. Your life is only important when it can give us power, and your life can actually be assigned negative value as long as that benefits them too. And if you don't believe me, just search Subway attack in the New York Post search bar. Nobody's marching for the passenger that got hit with an ice pick. Nobody's posting old dancing videos of the guy that got stabbed. No politicians crying over the MTA worker that was attacked. Nah, apparently cops and prosecutors are just saying too bad to Manhattan bus attacks. And that's just in the last couple weeks. But that's why I say this may be the end of safety in New York City. If the justice system can't protect you, we'll see more incidents like when this deranged man grabs this woman by the hair. Or like when this angry man punches this girl. People used to echo online, shame on all the able-bodied men that don't step in to protect the vulnerable. And what? Accidentally injure the attacker? Do life in prison? Or at the very least have your name and address plastered all over ultra-left social media? Because let's be clear, these protesters straight up tell you the only people they will stand up for. And in case you couldn't hear them, the chant was, "Who do we protect? Black criminals." Never mind the fact that most crime is intra-racial, meaning the more black criminals that are roaming free, the more black victims there will be. But I guess that slogan just isn't as catchy. And the saddest aspect out of all of this is, just look at all the able-bodied people at these protests. Instead of scuffling with police, crafting 1,000-word slogans, or trying to get their social media moment, I'm absolutely certain their time would be better spent actually serving the community. The report is the homeless guy that was choked was angry that he had no food or drink. Do these protesters think he was the last homeless guy in NYC? I'm sure at least half of those hundreds of protesters have an empty couch to provide, or at the very least some canned goods to offer. But no, they're an unserious movement. They want you to think they're super concerned with protecting the vulnerable, but only when they can gain social media clout, and only when social media tells them to, just like a perfectly programmable class of NPCs. So if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted breakdowns of what's really going on in the world, hopefully I've earned your subscription, as critical thinkers are truly becoming the world's next endangered species.